Matamu too.
It's Matamu 2 podcast. Woo-hoo! We're doing a little dance in the studio, and you can actually see these shenanigans on our YouTube page. The link will be in the show notes. But whichever way around, thank you, dear listener, for keeping it here with us. And on this episode of the podcast, we're talking about Omena, and we have a guest. Karibu sana, Gatuiri.
Asante sana. I'm so excited to be here
Woo-hoo!
and to talk about Omena. So yay.
Yeah, so Ebu, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Gatuiri Reumac. I'm a food content creator. I create food content across all platforms,
Nice.
blog, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, you name it, I'm there. Well,
AKA
except
living
TikTok.
the life. Why are you not on TikTok?
I don't know. Maybe I feel a bit old. I would need to be watching TikToks a lot for me to get with the trend and to create content that's on trend. So
Just do it.
I'm not ready to take that plunge.
Do it.
I'll see. I'll think about it.
All right. And getting right into it, Gatuiri will introduce herself a little more later so you can know exactly what she means by food content creator. Let's talk about Omena. The English name for Omena is actually the silver cyprinid or the Lake Victoria sardine. Some people call it Mukene,
Yeah, in
Dagaa,
Uganda.
you know. And it is a small silvery fish that has a very strongly compressed body covered in large scales. You know, ni kadogo.
It is strongly compressed
Kanakwanga
body.
kadogo sana.
Yeah, it's very tiny.
And it has large scales with a very pearlescent sheen. Have you ever seen Omena alive?
Unfortunately, I've never.
What?
Yeah, I've never seen it alive.
Oh no.
Imagine.
Tan, tan, tan.
I
Why?
know.
Why?
A
It's really pretty.
disgrace.
Like you could have Omena as like fish in your aquarium.
How many would you need to have, honestly? Because they're
of
too
course.
tiny.
So you'd have a whole school of Omenas. You'd have to have a very big aquarium to begin with.
Yeah, it seems. So also I'm guessing when they're alive, it's when you see the silverness.
Yes. They're very pearlescent. So it's like ni kama ile nini ya gari. It's not just like a pearl color ya gari. Yes, that's how it's the sheen. And they usually grow to a length of 9 centimeters. So the ones we know are like
Oh, 9 centimeters. Okay, because the ones we know, they're usually very tiny.
1 centimeter ukienda ni sana. But the Omena actually do grow to be quite big. And Dagaa Omena is an important fish for the Lake Victoria ecosystem and the fishermen. And it's usually caught using light attraction during moonless nights. And as with most things which are native to us, very little exists online about Omena. You know, we don't get very many factoids or interesting things, which is weird because it's like one of the things I really wanted to talk about on this podcast. From like day one, when I wanted to start this podcast, I was like, yeah, I'm going to talk about Omena because I have a very interesting relationship with Omena. And do you remember your first interaction with Omena?
Well, yes, I do. It was more like smelling it.
I like it.
I hadn't cooked it. It hadn't been cooked in my home,
Yes.
but I could smell it.
Yes.
So that was my first interaction with Omena. And unfortunately, it left a bad, let's not say taste in my mouth since I didn't
I did
taste
it.
it. Yeah. So I think I formed that stereotype and that notion that, okay, this thing does not smell the way I would want
Yes,
my food to
yes,
smell.
yes.
So I ended up keeping off, and I have kept off.
From Omena forever.
Yes, though I did taste.
Aha.
Yes, there's a time I cooked because, surprise, one of my daughters loves Omena.
Interesting.
Yes, so my
Is
husband
she
brought.
yours? Are you sure?
Imagine she's she looks like her father mostly, so that explains her love for Omena.
Does your husband love Omena as well?
He's the one who bought it.
Aha.
And when he bought it, I told him, by the way, you're the one going to cook it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he cooked it the first time they ate. Then another time he wasn't around. My daughter said she wanted Omena. So I had to cook it. So luckily with cooking is, as long as you understand your ingredient, you don't need to have cooked it before for you
actually,
to. Yeah. So I cooked it and I had to taste because
you are cooking it, right?
Yeah, yes.
How did that go?
it went well. It's just that I think I chickened out a bit. I tasted like 2. It wasn't bad, but I think I chickened out. But another motivation for me to be able to want to eat a full bowl or a serving of Omena is that I want to try out of the box things from other cuisines. So it would be very presumptuous or very hypocritical of me to go and eat escargot Whereas I'm frowning about omena. As in, it makes no sense.
At all.
And omena even makes more sense to eat omena compared to escargot. Yeah. So it's on my list of things I want to eat properly.
And I look forward to seeing the Instagram post about that. Now, I don't know. Omena, let me dig into the annals of history. First of that word, annals. But anyway, when I was a kid, we had dogs, right? And Omena was known as chakula ya umbwa for us. So my father would go to Mama Oliech in Dagoretti, get like a lot of Omena, and then bring it, and the house help in the evenings would integrate it into ugali ya umbwa. So like there was a special dog food, but like they cooked it like an ugali, and then like you'd always have the omena in there, and it's just really glistening. And as a kid, they always had to tell me, "Uskule chakula ya umbwa," because I was very.
It looked inviting.
It did though. It looked good. So I was like, okay, can I have this? Like, don't do it. And I'll always remember feeding the dogs. It was one of my favorite things to do as a kid, which is weird because I then later on developed a phobia for animals, but that's beside the point.
Okay.
I really loved feeding the dogs because they would gulp up that food like nothing else, and it was always so fascinating. But then like that association of omena as chakula ya umbwa,
pet food, yeah,
that's always been the association, and the way that the smell would linger in the kitchen for the next. They would feed those dogs at 3 p.m. But until like supper time, 7 p.m.,
you
right?
Could still smell
it. It's just like, why? Why is it so offensive?
True.
But I really found it to be really interesting. Just this fish that's eyes don't close, right? It's just always looking at you, and it's so tiny. And the silver cyprinid is the only native fish species which has remained abundant in Lake Victoria since the introduction of the Nile perch and the Nile tilapia. Everything else has been more or less killed off because those two tend to be the apex predators. But omena, just because of the sheer amount.
There's no, like, you can't get rid of them. It's like roaches.
Exactly. So, Dagaa is an important fish in the diets of the people of Eastern and Southern Africa. As I said earlier, it's caught during moonless nights, and in the morning that catch is sold to the women who will spread it out for drying in the sun. And they'll put it on a rock or on the sand or in the grass on old nets. Drying racks haven't yet caught on, but the last time I was around Kisumu, I think I saw a few drying racks, but most people just dry it out wherever they can find. The unfortunate thing is that the best catches are made during the rainy season.
Okay.
When drying is almost near impossible, right?
It becomes tricky.
Yeah, so that tends to mean that you'll get a lower grade of omena as a final product. It may not be good for human food, but it's still good for chicken feed, right? So that one tends to...
It's put in chicken feed.
Oh, yes.
Wow. Okay, that I didn't
know. Did you not know?
I didn't know. I know people actually call it cat food, but I didn't know it's also put in chicken feed.
It is.
Interesting.
It's a very important source of protein for chicken. Protein and calcium, right?
Okay, good to know.
Now you know.
Now I know.
So the dried fish is, of course, packed in sacks, and traders take the fish to the market. You have big wholesale markets for dried omena in Mwanza and in Kisumu, and people go and buy from there and then now spread it out to other places in Eastern and Southern Africa. I think the furthest I've gone and found omena was Bujumbura. Yeah.
At a store or at a restaurant?
No. See, roadside. This is
roadside.
This is a lot of Ibanda, please.
Oh,
please.
sorry. My bad.
A lot of Ibanda. So, according to the health experts, right, omena is higher in protein than goat, beef, chicken. It's like only second to insects. Insects are a really fantastic source of.
So I've come to learn.
And we will go into that later on in the podcast. Make sure you look out for that episode. Omena also a very good source of calcium, which is found in the bones, of course. And because you're eating the whole thing, you really do get that calcium. So if you want some calcium in your life, go and look for omena. It's very rich in vitamin D, which is great for the absorption of phosphorus and calcium. It gives you nutrients such as niacin, folate, B12, things that are very important in the energy forming process. So if you need to have a lot of energy, go and eat your omena. They're also very useful in the cell energy, right? So like how your cells, mitochondria and all that. High school biology things.
The working of the nucleus.
High school biology things.
Yeah.
And when served with vegetables and lemon juice, there's a better chance that your body will have an enhanced iron absorption capacity.
Wow. So essentially, omena is like a superfood.
It is a superfood. It's not like a superfood. It is a superfood.
So it's unfortunate that it's sort of seen bottom of the barrel
right?
food, yet it's a source of all those things.
It's
and
really
it's
good
very
for you.
accessible, and even the price points are not bad.
Yes.
And a little can feed a family nicely.
Very nicely, actually.
So omena is fallen for bad PR. Bad PR is the reason. Maybe
somebody needs to go and make a brand campaign for omena.
I think so. Maybe
But
it
then,
could be me.
Reformed
omena lover.
How do you counter the smell, though?
There's someone who was telling me from Kisumu.
Yes.
She was telling me,
Yes.
let me shout her out, Kit. The preferred way is working with fresh omena.
Not the dried stuff.
Yeah, so get the fresh one. But now me here in
Sasa.
Nairobi, getting the fresh one can be hard because she said the fresh one doesn't have the smell.
Aha.
Yes, because now essentially even fish, when you get it fresh, it just smells like fish, and it's not the off-putting smell. Yeah, so you get the fresh one, and then now you'll clean it, and then deep fry, and then now you cook in a curry or however you want to cook it.
That
So she advised me to get fresh. So I'm on the lookout. If anyone knows where I can get fresh omena, hit me up.
Please. Gatuiri's information will be available on the show notes. So if you know where to get fresh omena, DM her. She needs it.
Yeah.
I think the thing I don't like the most about omena is the snails. I can't. I'm
Snails?
sorry. I can't.
It has snails.
I can't. Like authentic omena that's been fished from the Lake Victoria shores tends to have tiny little snails as of so you're there, you're crunching through your omena, you're like yes omena.
Anyway,
yes
2 for 1 omena and escargot. What do you know?
If you're on YouTube, you're seeing me doing the no. I'm like no.
Like 2 birds with one stone.
Please.
Oh, I didn't know. So tiny ones.
Tiny little snails that you really have to pick out before you start to cook, right? And some people, especially commercial joints. Okay, mimi ni mtu wa kibanda, so let me speak about my level of commercial joints.
Okay.
Some commercial joints will not have the time to really go through the omena and pick out the small snails. So you're there just crunching through your omena, and then you're like, no. I don't want even to think about that.
Oh my. I'm a little traumatized.
Don't be. Whatever you buy in the supermarket tends to be already picked out, so it's fine. But then, barriers of entry, right? So it's like, do I really? But omena is good. Like, it's good for you. And if you know what you're doing, you can actually make it really tasty. So what other names have you heard omena being called, Rokare?
I just know Mukene.
Only?
And I've heard of Dagaa and Omena, but I know of Mukene. Reason being, there's a Ugandan blogger I follow a kitchen in Uganda.
Yeah, she's so good.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Oh my God.
Sophie. She has a recipe in her book that I wanted to try using the Mukene to make like a paste. Like you see the way you would have like a fish sauce.
Yes.
Something of that sort. And I wanted to try it so that I can use it in cooking. You see the way when you look at Asian cooking, the way they utilize things like anchovies to bring about some sort of like umami flavor or something, some sort of So I wanted to make now using the omena so that I try and incorporate it in some braised beef dishes and see how that goes.
So fancy.
So I only know of Mukene. Will let me know of others.
Hujaisikia kitwa Kisumu Boys?
Oh, you mean that? Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I have heard
I'm
of
here
Kisumu
with fancy
Boys.
people who don't know Kisumu Boys. So,
I'm sorry, forgive me. I was born in Nairobi.
It's okay. Sisi ni Nairobi born and bred.
Oh.
It's a thing, and I don't know when it came into the public limelight, but like for the longest time I've had omena is being called Kisumu Boys, more of as a joke, right?
True.
So like somebody would be saying, mimi leo na ugali na Kisumu Boys, and I was like, Kisumu Boys, what is that?
Omena.
Like what food is that that's called Kisumu Boys?
Well, that would not be me. At least I do know it's called Kisumu Boys.
Maybe, but it took a while. And my research pointed that Kisumu Boys probably originated from a dance crew at the Kisumu Boys High School back in the 90s that was called the Black Omenas.
Ah, okay.
So
okay, I see.
That's how it came. And now we're jumping into guest questions. Woohoo!
Okay, cool.
Is there a form of omena that you could try?
Yes, I think I would be able to try, like, I cook it in like a rich coconut sauce. Yeah. So I'd be willing to try. Yeah.
So fancy.
Yeah,
At least coconut.
crossed.
Okay, do you have a recipe that you've been thinking about for that rich coconut sauce?
Well, I have made it before. It's just that I
Yes.
didn't eat it. I tasted a bit. The one I made for my daughter.
Yes.
Because you just make a nice, like, a masala. A masala being like, you cook the onions, the garlic and ginger nicely, add your spices, and then tomato. Preferably, I prefer grating so that it doesn't have skin.
Yes.
So that the sauce is nice and thick. Then you add some coconut milk. Then you add your omena that you had deep fried prior. And then that's it. So you're supposed to eat that with ugali. So I should cook it and eat it because now I only tasted like 2 pieces. Yeah, just to make sure that I'm not giving my daughter food that's not edible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I will share that recipe in the show notes of this episode. So please make sure you will try it. I will also try it. I for the first time cooked omena in my house about 2 months ago in preparation for this episode.
Okay.
And I struggled.
Struggle in what way?
I
The
struggled.
recipe, or did you eat it?
I ate because
cool.
it was my food. I had to eat my food. I was hungry. Because that day I made sure I was hungry so that I didn't have a choice.
There's no other option.
But I really struggled to make it smell better because like the smell has always been off-putting for me. So I did what the masala, but then heavier on the ginger.
Okay.
So that it could cut a bit that the smell, so the ginger and a bit of cinnamon. Then I integrated, I think, aubergines, eggplants.
You added eggplant to omena. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, because I was like, okay, it needs a little bit. Okay, yes, there's a crunch texture, but I need something a bit soft in it.
Interesting.
So
I would never have thought of adding aubergine to omena.
Yeah, and it came out well, but then now the problem is like not the base, the omena. Like there's like a bitterness. I've never understood how people get rid of that thing.
Because that bitterness, was it Kaluhi of Kaluhi's Kitchen who was saying you soak it, like the soaking in the hot water,
Yes.
and then squeeze some lemon juice in it, like rinse it. Because I'm assuming you bought the one that's already dried or fried. So you're supposed to dried. So you're supposed to soak it, like rinse it until like your water runs clear, and then you squeeze like some lemon juice so that now when you deep fry, I think it won't have that bitterness.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will try that. I will try that. I'm going to try it, and you have to follow me on YouTube. That is Matamu too, so that you can be able to see me trying omena for the second time. I'm going to do all those tricks, all of them. So I'm going to ask a rather absurd question.
Okay, cool.
Given a choice of jumping off a bridge with a 50-50 chance that your parachute would work, and your other choice is going omena fishing on a moonless night, which one would you pick?
Omena fishing on a moonless night.
Why?
Simply because the jumping off the bridge, I'm not so sure whether the parachute would work. It's a 50-50
It's
chance.
50-50.
I do not want to become a pancake. I'd rather go fishing. And I'm sure the fishermen there are very skilled, so they'll keep me safe. Yeah.
Hey, you put a lot of trust in the fishermen.
Yes, I do.
Anyway, so what's been your go-to pandemic recipe?
I usually find it hard to answer the go-to questions, but when I've gotten home late and I want to prepare something quickly, I like making shakshuka. Shakshuka is eggs poached in a rich tomato sauce. Yeah, so it's like in other parts of the world, like shakshuka is mainly Middle Eastern
Yes,
but in other parts of the world, it's called like eggs in purgatory because the eggs are floating in the tomato sauce, so they're like stuck in time, so they're like in purgatory.
I can't deal.
So I like making that. I like making that, and since I always have spaghetti on hand because it's like a pantry staple, I usually serve it with spaghetti. plenty.
Nice.
So it's my go-to cuisine. Under 30 minutes,
umekula.
dinner is ready.
Umekula.
Yeah, and my kids love it.
Okay. I've not tried shakshuka. I've been telling myself I'm going to try it, and I should actually try it. So now this is the time that you get to tell us about what you're doing and what you have coming up.
Okay. So I've been creating food content for almost 10 years now.
Wow.
Yes. I started my blog, Leo Tunapika, back in 2012.
What was I doing in 2012? Hey, continue.
What are you doing? I was waiting to hear what you were doing. Anywho, so that's when I began, and then now it's grown. I'm mostly on Instagram these days, though I do try to keep tabs on all the other platforms that I'm in and create content there. So that's generally what I do. I share easy recipes for the everyday curious cook. I believe in teaching not only recipes but also technique.
Yes.
Because I feel like when you understand the technique, you can easily adapt the recipe to whatever suits you, and you can be able to troubleshoot even if you meet something else along the way. So I like teaching about technique. I'm very passionate about teaching things. I guess now I end up teaching cooking because that's what I'm doing.
That's so cool.
I'm also a baker, so I bake cakes for sale. I run a business with my brother, who's also my business partner, so I do that. And what is coming up is that I am working on a cookbook. Every time I say it, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I haven't finished. What am I doing here? I'm supposed to be writing the book. Why am I here? Anywho, so I'm working on a book which should be out in November. What the book will be about is still a surprise. And yeah, people will find out when I launch the book. But it's about food. Yeah, be guaranteed there'll be food.
There will be food in there.
Yes, there'll be recipes.
So when Gatuiri launches her cookbook, she's going to send us, tell us how to, get it. And we're going to put it up on our social media. Please follow at Reumac on all platforms. On YouTube, we are Matamu too. And that's the end of this episode. Oh my gosh. Imeisha haraka sana.
That was so fast.
Imagine. Our YouTube comments are really popping, so don't be left out. Go to the YouTube page, Matamu 2. Like, subscribe, share, all those good things. Drop us a comment about what you thought about today's episode. And thank you so much for joining us, Gatuiri.
Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed. I've learned a little bit about Omena. So, and I'm more excited to go and try it for real.
For real this time
round, as I get ready to try many other foods from across the globe.
Yes. Good. Until next time, it's your boy, Reumac, and this time I'm leaving it up to you whether you want to eat Omena or not.